1930s America, an era when the glowing lights of cities began to fade, when people walked with hope in their pockets but emptiness in their hands. From the streets of New York to the sunlit fields of California, only one phrase echoed everywhere: the Great Depression. The world's strongest economy had suddenly fallen to its knees. In these dark years lived Evelyn Blake, a 19-year-old girl from a small town near Chicago called Rockfield. Her father, George Blake, worked in a steel factory, while her mother, Caroline, earned a little from sewing. Evelyn's childhood was simple but full of dreams. She wanted to become a teacher and open a small school in her mother's name. But at the end of 1929, everything changed. The Wall Street crash, a phrase that became a symbol of fear for decades. The stock market collapsed, and along with it, collapsed the dreams of millions of Americans. George Blake, who had worked in the factory for 15 years, suddenly became jobless. Factories had no work left, banks were shutting down, hunger was spreading like a shadow over every home. Slowly, the Blake family's savings dried up. Caroline's sewing work also stopped because people no longer had money for clothes. Evelyn dropped out of school to help her family, but finding a job was nearly impossible. Hundreds of people stood in line for a single opening. Every morning, long lines formed in the town square, soup lines, where charities and government groups gave one bowl of soup and one slice of bread. Evelyn and her family stood in that line many times. During these difficult days, Evelyn met Jack Harrison, a young man who once worked as a bank clerk in New York but lost his job after the crash. He had been wandering from town to town looking for work and eventually reached Rockfield. Jack's eyes held the same broken dreams that millions of Americans carried. Their friendship grew in the middle of hardships. Every evening they met outside the abandoned steel factory where George once worked. In the cold winds, they would talk for hours about the past, about hope, and about a future they wished would come someday. By 1931, things became even worse. George's health began to decline. The brutal winter and constant hunger gave him pneumonia. Treatment was difficult. Many hospitals refused patients because people could not pay. Evelyn was desperate. She searched for work in nearby towns every morning, but returned empty-handed. Jack tried to help, but he too had nothing. One night during heavy snowfall, George's conditions suddenly worsened. They had no medicines left. Evelyn ran through the storm to the town doctor, but he refused because she had no money. He said with pain in his voice, "I can't treat him for free. I don't even have enough medical supplies. The government has cut our funding." Evelyn broke down, but Jack, who had followed her, stepped forward. He offered the doctor an old silver coin, his late father's last memory. The doctor reluctantly accepted and gave the medicine. But it was too late. George Blake took his last breath the next morning, their home filled with cries of grief. For the first time, Evelyn felt truly alone. Caroline fell into deep sorrow. Jack stayed by her side, trying to console her, though both knew their story was not unique. Similar tragedies were unfolding across the entire nation. Months passed. Then one day, Jack made a big decision. He told Evelyn, "America will rise again, Evelyn. Darkness never lasts forever. I want to volunteer for the New Deal programs. The government is building new dams, roads, and forests. If I get work, I'll come back, and we'll start a new life together." Evelyn didn't speak. She simply held his hand. Jack joined the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, and left town. He worked on forests, canals, and dam projects under the government's recovery plan. In return, he earned a small wage, most of which he sent to Evelyn and her mother. Slowly, 3 years passed. Evelyn learned sewing and started a small stitching business. Caroline's health improved slightly. A little brightness returned to Rockfield. People began saying,